Hello Stitchy friends! Welcome to the Starlight Stitching Co. Flosstube. Hello! If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. It has been quite a long time since I've had the chance to chat with you. If you remember from my last video way back in April, the walls were a very bright green, my daughter's favorite color. And since we switched rooms, her old room is now my craft room, and I finally managed to get the walls painted a nice light bright white and got the decor up, and I'm finally ready to film a Flosstube again. So hopefully it won't be quite so long of a break in between videos. Now, since it has been such a long time, I have quite a lot to share with you. I have a lot of cross stitch finishes. Not very many of them are fully finished, but I have a lot of stitching finishes, as well as one new start. I've been doing good on keeping my new starts low, and a whole bunch of whips. This is probably going to feel a lot more like a whip parade just because it's been so long and I have touched so many projects during that time. I also have some knitting and crochet and one sewing project to update on. So let's go ahead and dive right in with finishes. Last time, and even on my Instagram, I've shared that this year I started doing a Sunday stitch, a specific chart that I only work on Sundays. And for the first part of the year, that was Americana Blue. I do not recall what fabric this is. I will put it at the bottom of the screen. But this is a chart by October House Fiber Arts. It's monochromatic, and I stitched this in a, oh goodness, Weeks Dye Works Bluebonnet. I'm probably not going to remember all the details on everything, but this is fully finished. It is absolutely stunning. And now I just need to get a frame for it. I'm thinking of like a navy blue frame to put it in, something a little bit darker than the thread color. And then I can add it to my gallery on the wall. Oops. Next up, a lot of these are Whip Wheel Wednesday charts. So handmade by Sarah W. and Stitchy Sarah Reads, or Sarah's Stitchery, I can't remember. On one of those is on Instagram and one of those is on YouTube. Started a Whip Wheel Wednesday. So every Wednesday we spin a virtual wheel that has all of our whips listed, and it randomly picks a whip for us to stitch on. So a lot of these are going to be Whip Wheel Wednesdays. So this is Country Cottage Needleworks April Sampler of the Month. When this was drawn for Whip Wheel Wednesday, for whatever reason, it was the absolute last thing that I wanted to stitch. I don't know why. I didn't want to touch it. It just seemed so boring. But when I finally picked it up and started stitching on it, I couldn't put it down. So I kept working on it all throughout the next several days and completely finished it. So this was a whip I was able to check off. And it is so cute. This is, I think, a 16 count Ada that I tea-dyed myself. And I really wasn't very far along when I picked it up as a whip. I had just like part of the orange for the house, and that was it. None of the rest of it was done. So I really put in a lot of time to go ahead and get it finished. It's so funny how that works, but I'm thankful that the Whip Wheel Wednesday prompted me to pick that up and get some stitches in on it. The next one is 4th of July round. This wasn't a Whip Wheel Wednesday. The day I finished the April sampler, I still had some stitching time left and I didn't want to go dig out something else. So I just grabbed something else that was in that project bag. And that was the 4th of July round by Primrose Cottage Stitches. And whoops, there's a linen thread hanging there. I don't know what fabric this is. If I can find it, I'll put it on the bottom of the screen. And I just stitched this with some DMC. I think it was the called. No, this is a fancy floss. I don't know. If I have the details, I'll put them down. But now this is finished. Next one, oh, I don't have the magazine. It was from a, it's been in my whips forever. It's from one of the ornament cross-stitch magazines. I can't think of the name of it. My brain is not working. But I've had this angel ornament as a whip forever. And in April, I finally put some time in on it, and got it fully finished. Words are hard today. I got the stitching finished. It is clearly not fully finished. So cute. It's on a fabric flare screen printed fabric. So it looks like there's snow around, and there's some metallic thread in there that sparkles. So pretty. All right, the next one I have was also a Whip Wheel Wednesday. This is from the, do I have a year on here? I don't know. 2022. My goodness, this is old. This is a Fat Quarter Shop stitch along, one of the mystery stitch alongs. Summer Home. And here is my finish. There was someone on Instagram that had switched out the light pole in the chart for a flagpole and flag, and I had saved that when I saw it some time ago, and I just pulled up the image and duplicated it because I liked the flag so much better. So now I think I'll add this into my patriotic decor. And this is on a Fabric Flare Pale Gray Gingham 14 count. Okay, the next finish I have is actually a full finish, and that is, this piece is Pledge of Allegiance, and you can find this in the summer issue of Punch Needle and Primitive Stitcher magazine. It is stitched on a 20 count Ada. All of the details you can find in the magazine. And it includes the Pledge of Allegiance, of course, poppies along the sides to represent those that have lost their lives fighting for our country. Of course, we have the eagle at the top of the fluttering flag, and I added in some Quaker style motifs and some stars to kind of like act as fireworks in the background. In the corners there are these gold quilt stars, and then I have this lovely border of some pale purple quilt stars just to fill in some space and add some additional detail. I love stitching this so much, and it just brings me so much joy. And I finished this in a frame from Hobby Lobby. Okay, that does it for cross stitch finishes. Now I have my one new start that I lost on the table for a second. And that is Have Courage by The Proper Stitcher. She has shown it on her chart as being stitched in a gold on a cream fabric and a gold on a blue fabric. I also thought I saw it stitched somewhere in just blue, but maybe I'm remembering wrong. And I am stitching this on, I don't know, on a fabric. It's an Aida, probably 20 count, could be 18, I'm not sure. But I chose to stitch it in a combination of blue floss and gold floss. So if we look at the chart here, I have the bee-skep or beehives, the center rows, and these stars here stitched in yellow, and the words are going to be in blue, and I've started this frame around the bee in blue, and then I'll do the bee in yellow. So I'm doing a combination of 37.65 and 7.29 for my two colors. And I just think that this will look lovely once it's finished in a combination of those two colors. Let me tuck this away real quick so I don't lose it. Okay, now on to my whips. A lot of these are going to be the Whip Wheel Wednesday, like I mentioned before, because the Whip Wheel Wednesday prompts me to pick up something that I probably haven't touched in a while and put some work into it. So the first one is going to be The Light of Winter by Brenda Gervais. And I am stitching this on a 32 count raw gold linen. And here is where I'm at. I know I put some more work into the border, getting some more of the leaves and flowers done. I also added the cardinal and I think those three little trees. So not a whole lot of time on it. So pretty. I would love to have this finished before Christmas, but we shall see. There are too many whips and not enough time. Next up, another Whip Wheel Wednesday, Sugar Cookies by the Cricket Collection. If you've been around here for a while, you may remember that I had started this a very long time ago, right after I got back into cross stitching on a green linen. It was, I think, a Weeks Dye Works sagey green linen, but it was a really open weave. And my stitches just didn't look great. I had made some mistakes on the colors, and I just didn't want to keep working on it. So when this came up for the Whip Wheel Wednesday, I started it again on a 20 count opalescent white Aida and just started to get the outline of this cookie done. But I was not having fun stitching on this Aida. This stuff is super duper stiff. It could stand up on its own. So I went online and I actually ordered the called for antique white Belfast linen 32 count. That is what it calls for, right? They stitched it on a 28 count, but I got a 32 count, so I can still use 2/2 threads, but it won't be ginormous when it's done. And I plan on actually restarting it again on this white called for fabric with the called for DMC colors. So who knows when I will get back to that one. I find with a lot of the whips that I've put away, and haven't picked back up again, it's because there's been some sort of decision I've had to make. I didn't like something very much and it was just bugging me. So I've been a little bit more open to restarting things lately. Next up is Hive Rules, another Whip Wheel Wednesday. This is by Primrose Cottage Stitches. And here I've got it stitched on, I think a 16 count. Opalescent White Aida is what I started it on. I brightened up a few of the colors and then I wasn't thrilled with it. Part of my problem with this is I have stitched several of the other bee charts. I haven't fully finished them, but they're in my bin. But I've stitched them on this sort of rustico color Aida. And I thought the bright white hanging with that would look strange. And then I didn't like the more intense colors that I had picked. Why didn't I just start with the called for colors? That would have been smart. So I do plan on restarting it again. I got some 16 count Rustico Oatmeal Aida, which matches the other bee finishes that I've done. And I will be restarting this in the called for colors next time. Next Whip Wheel Wednesday was Harvest Moon by Annie B's Folk Art. This is such a stunning chart. I am stitching this on a 20 count Aida. And here is my progress. I got a start on that flag above the roof, I think is what I did. I don't always have a ton of time on Wednesdays to get a bunch of stitching done, but it's still nice to get them out. Next Whip Wheel Wednesday was Peace and Goodwill by Brenda Gervais. Also a very pretty chart. This I am stitching on a 32 count Crystal Dwarf. And as far as the colors, I don't know. I don't think I'm using the called for. I think I pulled some of my own that are similar. This Peace and Goodwill words right here, they do not stand out enough to me, so I'm going to have to pull that out and restitch it in a darker color. That's what I get for choosing something that's not a neutral. But I still think that it will look lovely someday when it's done. Next Whip Wheel Wednesday is Stitchy Stars. I finished the called for version many years ago. It's actually right up there. And I wanted to do some seasonal versions of it. So the whip I have here is an autumn colorway. And here is what I have. Let me see if I can tell you what colors I'm using since I'm switching it up. And maybe I don't know what fabric I'm using. But for the colors, I've chosen Classic Colorworks Cocoa Bean, Colonial Copper, Shamrock, 12 Grain, Desert Mesquite, and a color in cotton, Fortissimo. So those, whoops, lost one. Those are my colors for this. When I picked it up to work on it for Whip Wheel Wednesday, I just had that green and orange of that block done, so I started to add in the border so I could do some color completion. And then I realized I started the border off, so now I need to unpick the green and the orange. Isn't that fun? Oh my goodness. I cannot count. Clearly I cannot count. Okay. Next, I think it was a Whip Wheel Wednesday, is Biscornu and Rose by Julia Manfredi. Yes. Giulia Punti Antici. I have had the top done for quite some time. This was a kit that I received from her class when she did the punch needle and primitive stitcher retreat in, oh goodness, 2004, I think. I've had that done for a little bit, and this is where I'm at on the back. So the back is the same pattern, they just switched up the colors to be more pinks instead of more bluish purple. So I need to get that one finished. That one will be relatively quick to get done. All right, next Whip Wheel Wednesday was the 12 Days of Christmas Stockings by Annie V's Folk Art. These designs are so beautiful. I am stitching this on a 32 count raw gold linen by Zweigart. I've had day one done for quite some time. When it was called for Whip Wheel Wednesday, I got to work on day 2. Initially, I just had the brown of the branch done, so everything else there I added that particular week. And these are so fun and pretty. There's beads that get added, so day 1 I actually have all the beads on there. And the white beads on the one. Can you see them? So stunning. I've had to change just a couple of the colors to make it work on the more neutral fabric where this is designed to be stitched on a black. The black fabric is hard to count on, and apparently I already have a lot of problems counting. All right, since I finished my Sunday stitch, my Americana Blue, I picked up Rejoice Evermore to be my next Sunday stitch. This is also by Brenda Gervais. Apparently, I just really enjoy her patterns. And this, I am stitching on a 32 count linen. And here is my progress. Now, when I picked it up, all I had was the bones of the border. By that, I mean just this little viney part, nothing else. These words and what you can see here on the bird. I haven't gone back to the bird yet. So since I finished Americana Blue, I have completely finished the border with all of the leaves and the pinks. I did change one of the colors. It's supposed to be, what is it supposed to be? It's supposed to be Classic Colorworks Root Beer Float for this lighter pink area, but the Root Beer Float that I got definitely looks purple, like a grayish, greyish purple, and I didn't care for that. So I picked out my own pink, and then I've gotten completely done with the top section, and I've gotten a start on the next row. I'm going to leave the satin stitches. It's going to be hard to see, but these little triangle stitches here, those are satin stitches. I'm going to leave those until the end so they don't get messed up putting it in and out of my project bag. But that is my new Sunday stitch, and I just love it so much. It has been so much fun to work on. I actually haven't worked on it the last 2 Sundays because I've been really chugging away at something else to try to get it done. Next Whip Wheel Wednesday project is America the Beautiful by Stitching with the Housewives. This is another very old whip. And this I started on a 14 count chalkboard black Aida. I had the flag already done and a couple of the letters in America. And I finished America and started on Beautiful. And I think there was some white or red or something that wasn't done on the flag yet when I picked it up. So I would like to try to focus on this one soon and get it finished because I think it can be done pretty quickly. And it'll be a super cute patriotic decoration. Next, Whip Wheel Wednesday. This one's kind of funny. My Blue Heaven by Summer House Stitchworks. It's a very pretty chart. I just worked on this on that Wednesday. And this is stitched on a 20 count Aida of some sort. And I got a Vicki Clayton silk conversion. So it doesn't look all that different from the last time that you saw it, because I started to outline the roof and then I had to unpick half of it. So I finished outlining the roof, I added the ground underneath the door, and I've started to work on the, it looks like leaves, but those are actually cobblestones around the front part of the house. Very pretty, a lot of like details and specialty stitches in that house, but it's going to be beautiful someday when it's done. All right, next is another giant one that I've had around for quite a while. It's gorgeous. I want to get it finished, but I want to try to get some of these smaller things ticked off first. So this is Land That I Love by Teresa Kogut. And I am stitching this on a 32 count raw gold linen by Zweigart. And here's where I'm at. So the last time I picked it up and worked on it, I got a good start on this eagle. So I think I just have to fill in, let me look here, fill in the rest of the wings, and there's an eye detail. I don't know if that's back stitched or not. So fill in the wings and the eye, and then I will be done with the eagle. But as you can see, there's still quite a long ways to go on this one. So pretty though. Tuck that away. And now the one that I have spent the most amount of time working on lately, Plum Street Samplers American Welcome. So this I had as a whip for quite a while. I don't know if I started it last year or the year before, but I started it on this beautiful piece of Lap and Loops fabric. And I just had problems with colors showing up. I had tried to pick fancy flosses for the grass out of what I had, but the colors just weren't going together well. I didn't care for it. It wasn't turning out how I wanted it to look. So approximately 2.5 weeks ago, I restarted it on, what did I restart it on? This pattern has a lot of pages. I restarted it on a 36 count flax Edinburgh linen. And here is where I'm at now. So in about 2.5 weeks, I have gotten all of the stitching done. Every single last stitch. I am working away on filling in the water. So for the water, I am using Color and Cotton Hidden Lake. Very nice variegated floss. And to get the wavy look in that variegation, I started at the wavy top part of the water and am working my way down, following that wave pattern as best I can. It's not perfect, but that's okay. And I've got to fill that in. I need to add some eyes to the fishies and then do all the back stitching. And this one's done. It's so close to being finished. So close. And then I think to finish it, I want to get a red frame for it. Either red or navy. Probably, I don't know. I'm leaning towards red. So pretty. I love it. so much. Okay, and that concludes, excuse me, my nose itches. That concludes all of the cross stitching. Next, and there goes a bunch of stuff. Next, I'm going to talk about knitting and a little bit of cross stitch and sewing. So if that isn't your jam, thank you for stopping by. Please come back soon, or at least the next time I have a video. Who knows when that will be. And now on to knitting. I have 3 knitting finishes. Still can't count. Last time I was working away on my terrazzo hat and I got it finished. I do not recall any of the details of the pattern, who it's by. I'll try to put that at the bottom of the screen. I knit this in a Noro Silk Garden Sock Solo, color number 1, and a very pale pink knitting for olive mohair that I had left over from my California sweater. But look at all these fun, beautiful colors, and like this pop of intense color at the top. So pretty and fun. It's going to be so thick and cozy warm in the winter, and it does get quite cold here in Kansas. So I'm thrilled to have that done. I haven't blocked it yet. For whatever reason, blocking seems to be my stumbling point. Like, I just don't want to take the time to do it, which is silly because the thing is done. It just needs washed. Next, I participated in the Tiger Lily sock knit along, and I can't remember the name of the dyer that she used, but I did order the kit in the Meadow colorway. So here they are, both totally finished. I knit socks using the, I forgot what it's called now, Magic Loop method. There we go. That's why they look like this instead of like that. There we go. They also still need blocked, but these socks actually fit and they're pretty and cute. I just did a little shorty leg because I don't need them to go all the way up to my knee. Very pretty. I love it. And I have a complete pair. And there was actually even plenty of yarn left over that you'll see in a later whip. Next up, I shared this last time, the Laurel Shawl. This has been a very long time whip also. And this is knit in a fingering weight Bumblebee Acres, I don't know what they call it, a shimmer sock, because there is some shimmer to it, if you can see that. I don't know, it's hard to pick up in the video. In the color Dragonfly and Amber. And I have this totally finished, and it is actually blocked. So it is ready to wear. And it's gorgeous. When I was knitting it, I thought that the lace and cable pattern would totally get lost because of the variegated yarn, that it would have looked better in more of a neutral yarn. Now, this pattern calls for a worsted weight yarn, and clearly I did not listen. I used a finger weight, so I have something that is much more light and airy, which is okay. But it's stunning. I love it. And I'll be ready to wear it. This is giving fall vibes. Obviously not with a t-shirt, but you know, I can't get tall enough for you to see the whole thing, but it is so pretty. And I love it so much. Now, one thing that I didn't think about, I was just trying to use up the yarn, and it called for, after this last set of eyelets, to just bind it off. And I should have done that, but instead I just did some plain knit rows a couple of times just to try to use up all of the yarn possible. And I didn't consider the fact that just stockinette likes to curl up, so it might curl up on the end. If it does, it does. But it is done. Well, I still need to weave in the ends. You probably saw some loose ends. But other than that, she is done, and she is pretty. Very, very pretty. Okay, that does it for my knit finishes. I have 3 new starts. Let's see. Yep, this is it. So after the Tiger Lily sock knit along, I started some socks for my daughter using the leftover yarn. And I like to knit them 2 at a time, so I actually have 2 sets of needles, because knitting them 2 at a time on 1 set of needles was too much untangling of yarn balls. I used the math that Tiger Lily provided and the measurements of my daughter's foot to knit her some socks. So I have one that I am past the heel and well on into the foot. I've got, what is this, 10, 20, 30, probably about 40, maybe a little over 40 rounds into the foot. And I need, I think, 55 for her measurement, if everything is correct. And then I'll be ready to start in on the toe. For the second one, I have just finished the heel. I haven't done any of the rounds on the foot. For the cuff, I did a 2x2 rib. For heel, 2x2 rib for 20 rows is what I did based on my calculations. So someday I will get them done and we'll see if they actually fit. And if not, hopefully they're on the large size and she'll grow into them. We shall see. Okay, the next new start is in this bag. This is the Avenue Tea by Tori Yu. I was rather impatiently waiting for the Avenue tank to get released, and I couldn't stand it anymore, so I ordered the Avenue Tea pattern and figured why not go ahead and knit me a t-shirt. So this is in Bad Sheep yarn, fingering weight in the color Bluebird, and I've got it on some small circular needles, so I don't know how well you're going to be able to see this, but I am just working on, so here's the shoulder raglan increases and the shoulder area. I have not joined in the round yet, so I'm still pretty close to the top. I did go down a needle size from the pattern. It actually, when I started knitting the gauge with the called for needle size, it ended up with a very open mesh fabric that I didn't really care for. So I switched the needles to a smaller size. I'm using 3.5 millimeter, and it calls for 3.5 millimeter. I guess I'm using the right size. Oh, I am using the called for size, but it did not get me gauge. That's what it was. There was something with the needles. To get the gauge called for in the pattern, I would have had to go up significantly, and I didn't like the look of the fabric. So I used the called for needles and measured my gauge and figured out what the percentage difference was, and then just went up in size. Yes, went up in size to a size 8 instead of a size 5, just to match my gauge. So fingers crossed that this ends up working out. But it's a beautiful color. Look at how pretty that is. I love it. It definitely needs some more work. I am not a very fast knitter. I don't work on it every day. I'd probably get a lot more knitting done if I did that. But my crafting time is limited, and for whatever reason, I've just focused on cross stitch lately. Okay, the last new start, this one's a fun one, or new knitting start, I should say, because I do have a new crochet start also. This is the Butterfly Bloom sweater by Tori Yu. Super pretty. So I had started to learn to spin, and I had hand spun some yarn just from some natural colored, is it Corriedale? It's the wool roving I got off of Amazon. I actually got it to stuff cross stitch finishes, something like this or this. That's what I got it for. But I already had it on hand, so I figured why not practice on that instead of the good fiber and just test things out and see how it worked. So I got my first couple of small skeins spun up and plied into yarn. I mean, like, it's actual pretty yarn. Not super consistent. There's definitely some thick and some thin spots, but I wanted to try to knit with it to see how it worked, and I didn't know what to do. And I also wanted to practice color work because I'd never done color work before. So it's like, okay, let's do a fun art project. And this chart looked like it didn't have a ton of color work, so I figured it was a good spot to start. After working on it a little bit, I find that really this probably isn't a good spot to start because there's some long distances in between the colorwork stitches, so you have to catch your floats and all sorts of stuff. But do I really want to knit a sweater that may not end up looking good with yarn that may not end up lasting, just as an art project to practice? So I had on hand already this, what is this? It's a I think it's a worsted weight. I don't know. It's from a yarn dyer. Pause. Okay, I've got the information now. It is, oh, I don't have the dyer though. That's not helpful. I'll try to put it on the screen. It's a sport weight in the colorway Monet. It looked absolutely stunning on her Etsy website in the skein. And I ordered this right at the beginning of my knitting journey. I didn't have a yarn swift yet, so I paid for her to cake it up. And then when it arrived, I saw it in the cakes and I looked at it and said, ew, that doesn't look very good. But I mean, it was my fault. There's orange and green and red and pink and purple and blue, and it's just all sorts of crazy colors. So I figured I can do that. If it ends up being horrible, then it's a lesson. It's an art project. Who cares? And here is where I'm at. So I'm still working on the yoke. And I've just started, I know you're looking at this upside down, but I've just started the tippity tops of the butterfly wings. So I finished all the flowers and I'm starting off with the butterfly wings. And this yarn that I thought was ew, actually, looking back from a far distance, kind of just reads as pink and purple. So I'm kind of loving it. And then of course, when you get up close, you have all these other crazy colors. And then like here, there's this one swatch of a bunch of crazy colors. So we'll see how it turns out. So far, I am quite impressed with how the color actually looks knit up. So that just shows me, don't judge a knit by the cakey yarn. Oh, that was silly. Okay. Other whips. Continuing on with knitting. I have the Violetta cardigan, and I'm I'm not stitching this, I'm knitting it. I am knitting this in a Bad Sheep yarn, DK weight, in the color Sand Dollar. So pale blue, pale yellows, creams, very lovely. And I have had this as a whip for quite some time. So I finished most of the body very quickly and then pulled it out and finished the rest of the body and struggled through this decorative stitch on the bottom. And I'm 99% sure I didn't do it right. But then it sat forever and I was in limbo on this first sleeve. Well, I kept picking it up and working on it for a little bit and then setting it down for a couple of weeks and then picking up and working on it for a little bit and repeat until finally I decided this is going to be what I take with me while I go sit and wait at my daughter's piano lessons and keep plugging away at it and get it done. And I got the first sleeve finished. I did the smocking stitching, I think right this time, and got the ribbing done on the cuff. Obviously I have ends to weave in. And then a couple weeks ago, I picked it up again right after I finished that last cuff. I picked up the other sleeve and just blasted through the entire sleeve in one weekend. So now it is down and I've actually started the first row of the detail stitching on the cuff. Detail knitting on the cuff. And I love how it looks. We've got some banding in the sleeves from the hand-dyed yarn, but yeah, that's just what it does. So here is where I'm at. I need to just finish the cuff on this sleeve and then pick up and add the button band, and this would be totally 100% done and ready for blocking and weaving in ends, of course. So I need to pick this back up because I can't imagine the button band would take horribly long to do, but then I could get it finished and then maybe I could start something new after that, because you know I clearly don't have enough whips, but I have a bunch of different things that I want to start. Okay, last knitting whip is the Clover Tea by Lynette. I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. It was in big bold letters at the top. It has this lovely lacework detail on the yoke. And I am knitting this in a Bad Sheep yarn in the color Emma. I'm pretty sure this is a worsted weight, I think. Show it to you from the front without tails in the way. But here's where I'm at. So I've completely finished the yoke. I split for sleeves and I'm just working round and round and round on the body. The one modification I did make is I didn't make these like lacy details go down as far for personal preferences. I just didn't want that open work going that far down, because like on me, and before blocking, it hits right here. Probably a little bit higher when I'm actually wearing it. but I just didn't want to go out down any further. So I just calculated out how many increases I needed to add and the spacing in the rows to make the increases the same as though those details were there. And I think it's going to be okay. It looks so lovely. And this is at the point where I can just go round and round and round she goes without having to concentrate. All right, that is it for knitting. I have one crochet whip that I've worked on. It's a very new start. I crocheted several of these a few years ago. This is the Perfect Pockets shawl by Sonia Hood. And I have one that I crocheted several years ago out of Premier Puzzle yarns in like an aqua colorway that I keep in the camper, and I use it all the time when we're out camping to keep warm. And my daughter asked for one. So her favorite color is green, as we've discussed already. And I got this green colorway from our local Walmart. And I've just barely started. You know, I did some math to figure out how long it probably should be for a 9-year-old, probably 9.5 or 10-year-old by the time I get it done, let's be honest. And that's where I'm at. So I've got a few more rows before I start the open work lacy stitches, but once that starts, this goes really fast. I've made 4 or 5 of these in the past, and I know it'll go pretty quickly once I get to that point. All right, that is all of the whips, all of the cross-stitch knitting and crochet whips that I have worked on since April. I have one sewing project to share. I had the pattern here. Okay, I purchased the kit for the Tilda Something Blue lace bag from Tiger Lily Designs. This is a kit that she offered in her shop. It comes with all of the materials pre-cut to the sizes that you need with the paper pattern. It includes a PDF pattern and a link to a private video tutorial. So you have to buy the pattern to get the link to the video tutorial, but it's very helpful. And in like just 3 days, because I was obsessed with this, I wanted it to get done, I finished my bag. And it is so pretty. Got the lace on the front and the strips on the back. This nice long zipper tail with the fabric tab. Our pretty lace handles with scrappy patchwork on the back. And inside, it's just one giant pocket, completely covered raw edges, completely quilted. It looks beautiful. I love it so, so much. I want to make a couple of more of these with some fabric scraps that I have. I have a bunch of strawberry print fabrics and some purpley colored fabrics that I think would make a lovely bag. And you wouldn't have to do this center panel. You could do it all with the strips and it would still be fun and usable, but this is going to be a perfect knitting bag. I think I might put my Avenue tee, because it's in that bluebird yarn, or this next project that I really want to start. I've been following a couple of people on YouTube and on Instagram that have recently knit a ranunculus. And half of the knitters watching me probably just rolled their eyes. This is supposed to be a really super fast, fun pattern, and depending on the sizing that you pick, like, it doesn't have to be as oversized as it is in these photos. It doesn't have to have the wider collar. There's a couple of options. So I'm thinking the narrow collar and picking a size that's a little more fitted. So not negative ease, but not 12 inches of positive ease either. And I want to do it in this stunning Ruby and Roses Fingering Weight Azure Elegance yarn. Isn't that going to be fun? I want to do a short sleeve version, and I think it's going to be so fun and so pretty as a light lacy overlay over just a tank or something. So maybe I'll put that in my fancy new bag. It does match pretty closely. Okay, folks, that is, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump the camera. That is absolutely everything that I have and everything I have worked on in the last several months, other than painting and decorating. If you have any questions about anything, feel free to leave that in the comments and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If I have a chance, I will try to leave links to as many things as I possibly can. We'll just have to see. Life gets lifey sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to keep up. Yeah, so I hope you had some nice stitching or knitting crafting time, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.